So it appears football isn't coming home to Scotland, sadly for me. But Beat the First Man goes on, people. Do not worry. Coming up on this week's show, in Dad v Lad the Euros, we find out, does Keane complete his forfeit? We are joined on Zooming In by Ronan from Census. We're going to talk about their brilliant new tune that they're just about to release. But also Ronan is a bit of an Italian football expert, being a resident. There's absolutely loads more to come. There's some big Stoke, Gabriel and Torbay police news as well that I'm about to drop on you. And what are we waiting for? Roll the titles. So here we go then, episode 45 of Beat the First Man as the half century gets ever closer of all the fun and games that we always bring you. Don't forget, if you are new to the show, please get on board the BTFM bus. Click the subscribe button down below, somewhere down there. Don't forget to ring the little bell so that you never miss another episode of the show. And more importantly, get involved, people. Hit your comments in down below. Anything you like, anything you don't like. Any comments on the show. It's not a Germany shirt before we get any stick. It's a Leeds training top because I don't want to be accused of going all anti-England and wanting everyone that plays them to win. So just to clarify that. Like I say, I reply to every single comment apart from the odd dodgy link that I get sent. I've never clicked on any of those. They don't look good to me. Anyway, Stoke Gabriel and Torbay Police. So, first things first. Let's fire up the siren. Helmet on. So, as we spoke about the other week, Stoke Gabriel and Torbay Police have merged. They formed a new club. But huge news. If you were following the Stoke Gabriel story last year, you'll remember the constant beatings, the defeats, the humblings. We had a bit of a laugh at their expense, but they all took it in good faith. We played along. Anyway, last week they had a friendly against a side called Chepstow. And well, are you all sitting down? Are you holding on to something tight so that you don't fall? They won. Yes, they won. Stoke Gabriel and Torbay Police won 3-2. So off and running. It is only a friendly, so we're going to hold fire on the celebrations a little bit because we want that first legal cup win, and then we are massively going to town on it. But from what I'm hearing, things are building up nicely for the new season. I think we're going to have some good times ahead with the boys. So Chepstow, you're in the slammer, my friends. Stoke Gabriel and Torbay Police have struck. There we go. So, get the old tit off the head or the helmet. Little police joke there. We can get a few of those in over the year, don't you worry. So, how old? Now, technically, this week, we are not going north of the border because this player spent his entire playing career in England. That said, I can't lie, he is Scottish. So, he's a fullback who started his career at Bradford City before a loan spell at Rochdale saw him make a permanent switch to the Dale, where he made 126 appearances. His form captured the attention of the Tigers from Hull in Hull City, where he made a further 63 appearances during which time he posed for this absolutely beautiful photo we're about to show you. So what we want to know is when this photo of Jimmy Graham was taken, how old was he? So, age to be revealed later on in the show when Ted will be joining me. So, you may recall Dad v Lad the Euros. Last week we predicted the England v Scotland game, and Keane, aka Lad, made the bold forfeit that if England did not win, he would wear a Scotland shirt for the next segment of Dad v Lad. So, as we predict the results of the last 16 coming up, let's see if he stuck to it. Here's Dad v Lad, the Euros.
So, welcome to Dad v Lad, the Euros. And before we start, Keane, I'll give you every credit for the fact you stuck to your forfeit and you are wearing the aforementioned Scotland shirt that you said you'd wear if England didn't beat them at Wembley.
It's very painful, but it's all right.
Yeah, and you are part Scottish, so you can get away with it.
Yeah, there's a little bit where, because you didn't go through, it's quite fun to wear it. If you would have gone through, it would have been worse.
Right, so let's review the fixtures that we done last week before we do next week. So it was 3-1 to me. So we'll start with the Italy-Wales game. So you went for 2-0 Italy. I went for 1-0 Italy. So it's 3 points to me and 1 point to you on that one. What makes it worse for you is I'd actually wrote down 2-0, and because you picked 2-0, I went for 1-0.
Honestly, how it didn't end 2-0, I don't know.
No, well, I couldn't agree more. Portugal, Germany. I went for a 1-0 win to Portugal. You went for a 2-2 draw. And Germany won 4-2. None of us saw that one coming.
I got a 2.
I'm not even convinced the Germans saw that one coming, to be honest. And before any English people get all stressy, it's not a Germany top, it's a Leeds training top. I don't want to be accused of, wearing a Germany top on my podcast. And then last but not least, the England-Scotland game. So you went 3-0 England. So you got the nil bit right for us. I went for a 1-1 draw. And obviously it was 0-0. So last week it was 4-1 to me, which now makes it Kian 2 or Lad 2, Dad me 7. It could all change, because for this week's we've got the entire last 16 to predict. So we'll fly through these, because obviously we don't get loads of time, so let's whip through them. So we'll start first of all, Wales v Denmark. So how are you seeing that one then?
Hold on, the sun is shining in my face. Let me just close this curtain.
You've gone all Sunset Radio on me.
It was literally
Radio would be so proud.
It was shining all in my face.
It just needed a floral shirt.
I mean, it's bright. I think that Denmark will win 2-0. I think they're a bit too strong for Wales, and they've got a big reason to try and get far as well. Yeah, I agree.
I think I think Wales have done great to get out of the group. But I just think Denmark for me, they are a real dark horse to win this.
Yeah.
Because these sort of things just have a way of turning out like this. So I had wrote down 2-0, just like the Wales-Italy game. So I'm going to go for 1-0 Denmark now instead of 2-0. I think the same as you. I think there's something in the stars that just says Denmark are going to do something.
Yeah.
And it would be no surprise if they went on and won the tournament. Absolutely no surprise whatsoever. Anyway, moving on to the Italians, are all of our new favourite second national team to watch. Very exciting. Don't forget to watch Zooming In with Ronan from Sensit. He'll talk us through the Italian team and why they could win it. So how are you going, Italy, Austria then?
Maybe I think they can't not concede forever. You can't keep not conceding. And I think Austria are going to score. And I think Austria will 1-0 up, but I think they'll lose 2-1.
So you're going 2-1 Italy. Well, I think Italy's clean sheet record will keep going. I think they're defensively so strong. It's going to take a real top team to score past them. Chiellini might be out, but they still didn't look too much weakened, to be honest, when he didn't play the other night. I'm going for 2-0 Italy. I think they're going to have way too much for the Austrians. I think Austria were a little bit fortunate to get through, and I think Italy are going to have way. I think they'll do it in second gear, to be honest. So Netherlands and the Czech Republic. This is a tough call, this one, I think.
I reckon they might be like the first sort of shock of the round.
Oh.
Because I think the Netherlands, everyone's kind of hyping them up a little bit. But there's a guy I follow who's Dutch on Twitter, and he really does not rate them.
Right.
And he thinks that the Boers' tactics are poor, and he reckons they will go out. And I think they'll lose 2-1.
Oh, that's a huge call. That's an enormous call. Right, okay. Well, I've gone the other way. I've gone 2-1. I've gone for the Netherlands winning 2-1. I think they've been a bit like England. They've not looked particularly exciting to watch. They've not looked like the old Dutch teams of old, but they're getting the job done. And I just think they'll have too much for the Czechs. I I know they beat Scotland 2-0, but I don't think the Czechs are really all that. I think, on another day we'd have beaten them if we'd have taken half the chances that we had. You beat them quite comfortably without really getting out of second gear. I'm just not convinced about the Czechs. So I think 2-1 the Netherlands. I think Czechs will score, but I'm going 2-1 the Netherlands. So a lot of people's favourites, Belgium up against Portugal, who served up a thrilling penalty contest last night.
So Ronaldo's involved. I'll stick this here. So I think it'll be 2-2.
Aqua.
I've got some of that here as well if he wants it. But I think 2-2.
2-2. Right, okay. So we've basically, for the watching public, so we've come up with a thing. If you think it's a draw after 90 minutes, there'll be a bonus point if you predict who goes through in the end. So you'll get your normal points for the result, but then you get a bonus point. And even if you haven't predicted a draw, so for instance, I've gone 1-0 Belgium. I think Belgium will just have enough to see off Portugal and knock them out. But I obviously have to then go with Belgium as my team because you've gone for a draw. So who do you think is going to get through out of the two of them after all that?
I think Belgium will get through.
I thought you were going to say that Portugal were going to shithouse it on penalties or something.
No.
I mean, it'd be no surprise.
No, well, they get enough of them, don't they?
Well, I mean, you did call it. First game of the tournament, you said they were shite.
Mm-hmm.
They looked pretty good last night, first half.
But the other games they've played.
Yeah, well, let's see how they go against Belgium. It's not going to be an easy game against Belgium by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
So, Croatia v Spain. Spain hot off of absolutely spanking Slovakia 5-0. Although I don't think they're going to get a goalie quite as generous as Dubravka was yesterday. Croatia hot off beating the top team in Europe at Hampden on Tuesday night with a Modric masterclass. How would you see that one panning out?
This is how I've got my other draw.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be 1-1. I think.
Ooh.
Because Spain don't score many, and neither do Croatia.
Yeah.
So
okay. Well, I have also gone for a draw. I haven't gone for 1-1. I've gone for 0-0. I think these two are just going to cancel each other out. They're just going to try and pass each other off the pitch, and I can't see there being many chances. Spain, Morata. I love Morata until he gets in the penalty box. He's brilliant until he has to shoot. And even yesterday, he had a penalty and missed that as well. I'm going 0-0. So, who are you calling to go through?
I do think Spain will win. I think they'll win on penalties.
All right. Well, I've also put Spain to win as well. So, right, let's see then. So, on to the French. France against Switzerland. Surely an easy win for the French.
I missed it off my predictions, but I'll just do one of my own.
All right, go on then.
I think France will win 2-0.
Unbelievably, that means I now have to change mine. So I'm going to go. I'm going to go 3-0 France. I think the French
score quite a few.
I think the French looked last night like they were playing in second gear. Looked like they've got an extra gear to find. Griezmann has looked I mean, everyone's raving about Pogba, but Griezmann in this tournament has been incredible. Every game he's had a good game. And if he keeps playing the way he's playing, they are going to take some beating. It's got to be said. So I'll go 3-0 the French, and the Toblerones will be going home. No more Swiss jokes.
I think they're already packing their bags.
We'll skip the next one. We'll go on to Sweden v Ukraine. So Sweden, Ukraine.
I think Ukraine will win 2-1. I don't think Sweden are that good, to be honest. They've got one player, I reckon.
Oh, that's a huge call. Now, so I think the Swedes, they are a dangerous outfit. They don't concede many goals. I know Poland scored twice against them and should have scored 3 if Lewandowski didn't have my old boots on. But I think the Swedes are quite dangerous. You know, they dealt with Spain pretty comfortably. They should have beaten Spain with the chances they had. Obviously, they saw off the Poles. I don't know. I've got Sweden to win 1-0. I think Sweden are going to. They're very efficient. They defend very well, and I think they'll have too much for Ukraine. I'm going Sweden 1-0. Which leads us on to the last one. Yawn. England, Germany, yet again, yawn. How many times are they going to play each other in a major tournament? Well, I'm going to go first. I won't go in the score, but I'll give you how I think it's going to go. So, I think England are getting slagged off a bit too much not in the press, because the press, to be fair, haven't really caned them other than after the Scotland game. But I think the general sort of Twitterati, if you like, and Facebook and other social media platforms are caning England for their performances so far. At the end of the day, they've played 3. They've not conceded a goal. They've done what they had to do to get out of the group. You could argue Scotland, they were poor, but they came up against a highly motivated side who played their best performance of the tournament in that night. Croatia, they were comfortable, didn't really look like conceding. I didn't watch the Czech game, but by all accounts, they were better against the Czechs than they were against the Croats. So I think England are getting a little bit harshly treated by the Twitterati, but I get it, because they have not been good to watch. They've been dull as ditch to watch. And at some stage, he has to take the shackles off and try and attack. He cannot play for 0-0 draws and 1-0 wins all the way through the tournament, because it won't happen. It's the better sides are going to score. You know, a better side than us would have taken a chance. A better side than Croatia would have taken a chance. And I think once you come up against those top sides, I mean, it's almost inevitable if Werner plays, he scores. I don't think he will, because my score is written down here, and I don't think he'll play anyway. But I think England will get through. If I was English, I wouldn't even be worried about the Germans. I think they are bang average at best. At best, they've got Mats Hummels, is nearly my age at the back. I would just get Sterling to run past him all night long. I cannot see any way England lose that game. I really can't. I've gone all Rio Ferdinand, but I can't. I just can't see how they lose the game. I really can't. To my viewers in Scotland, Wales and Ireland, I'm really sorry. I just cannot see how England lose that game. They just won't. So what do you think?
Obviously, I am not as confident because I'm the one cheering for us. I've had to watch us. But like you say, we've not conceded. And I think against Croatia, not Croatia, Czech Republic, we found 2 players that really do look like they're up for it. I mean, Grealish, when he was playing, and he made the goal, and he was probably his second best player on the night. And Saka wanted to go at them every time he got the ball. Every time Saka got the ball, he was direct at the fullbacks. I mean, if you do that against Germany, who knows? I
don't think they'll start, either of them.
I think Grealish will. I don't know about Saka, but I think Grealish. Because Mount isn't back until the day before.
I think he'll go back to Mount and Foden.
I think Grealish will start. I don't know about Saka, but I do think Grealish will. I think he's done enough, and he made the goal. I don't think you can drop him now.
I wouldn't start him anyway. Personally, I wouldn't start him.
I would. He's definitely in my team.
I would play more pace. I think pace against the Germans is what would kill them. And Grealish, as good as he is with the ball at his feet, has got no pace at all. And I think I would batter them with pace. I think that's the way to beat them. And I think that's how I would get at them down the flanks. I'd have Sterling on one wing, I'd have Sancho on the other, or Saka on the other, and just get at them. I don't think he will for a second, but that's what I would do. So what score are you going then?
So I don't think we're going to concede, because we've not looked solid, but we don't look like conceding all the time. And then I do think we've got enough going forward. I've gone 1-0 England.
You see, I did have 1-0, but I can't go the same. So I'm going to go 2-0. I actually think it'll be your most comfortable game of the Euros so far. I don't see any way you don't beat them. I think you'll have more trouble in the game after, which actually, ironically, probably should be easier. I think those 2 sides will give you more trouble than Germany, personally.
I think it helps us as well that it's 40,000 at Wembley and they've turned down their allocation.
They'll still be in there.
But there won't be as many, and they won't all be together.
Let's bear in mind, they only gave Scotland 2,500 tickets, and there was an awful lot more than 2,500 in that stadium.
It's different though, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've not been given the 7,000. I think we'll do it.
So your last 8 then would be Denmark, Italy, Czech Republic, Belgium, Spain, France, England, and the Ukraine. Mine would be Denmark, Italy, the Netherlands, Belgium, Spain, France, England, and Sweden. So there we go. So at the moment it's 7-2 to me. So there's at least, there's 24 points to play for there. If you get all eight of those spot on. So there's a lot of points to play for. What we'll do is we'll record the quarterfinals predictions straight after. We'll have to do it on Wednesday or Thursday night, so we can get the quarterfinals predictions on next Saturday's show. So be sure to tune in for next week's instalment of Dad v Lad the Euros. Credit to Kian for wearing the Scotland top. He stuck to his forfeit, and I'll stick to mine. If England win the Euros, I will present the show after the Euros wearing whichever England shirt that you choose. But for now, thank you, Kian, and it is back to the show. See you later.
So there you go then. Credit to Kian, he saw it through, and as I repeated once more, if England win the Euros, I will present the show afterwards in an England shirt as my forfeit. So there you go. At 7-2 up though in Dad v Lad, it looks like I'm having a bit of a laugh anyway, to be honest. 7-2. Who saw, after Guess Me knowledge, who saw this coming? Premier League managers, it's a knockout. So last week we drew the semi-finals of the Premier League managers, it's a knockout. So the category, if you remember, it's a penalty shootout against each other. So we're going to review the ties before we open the polls on Tuesday. So semi-final 1 was Brendan Rodgers against Jurgen Klopp. So a penalty shootout, Brendan v Jurgen. Brendan's a smaller man. I worry about him in goal facing Jurgen's penalties. But to be fair, Jurgen, he's a bit rush, and he's, you know, is he gonna get too emotionally involved in the penalty shootout and make mistakes? I've seen Brendan Rodgers play football. He used to play for a team that I used to go and follow called Whitney Town. He's not the greatest player in the world. So it's a close old call. Jurgen did play in German football. I'm going to go Jurgen. I think Jurgen beats him. I think Brendan's lack of height in the goal is going to hold him back. And Brendan's footballing ability on the pitch. I think Jurgen's going to do him. So I'm going Jurgen, but you get your chance to vote. Comment below, say what you think. The other semi-final, Pep Guardiola v Marcelo Bielsa. Master v Apprentice. I'm not going to lie, I think this is an easy win for Pep. I love Marcelo, but Pep's just got to slot him hard and low in the corners. I just don't see Marcelo getting down there. Marcelo will have studied him meticulously to know which corner he's putting him in, to where he's going to put him, to how he's going to strike the ball, but I just don't think he gets down to save him. I think Pep wins it easy. I think we're looking at a Pep v Jurgen final, I can't lie. But what do you think? You get to vote. The polls will go on Twitter, they'll go on Facebook, they'll all be online on Tuesday. They'll be open for 3 days when you get to vote, and then they'll go to the final results from there. We'll announce the finalists in next weekend's show, when I will also reveal how the final will work. That gives me a week to work out how the final is going to work. There is a category, but I'm going to work out how it's going to go. So there we go. So Brendan Rodgers v Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola v Marcelo Bielsa. Be sure to get your votes in later on in the week when the polls go live. But for now, yeah, I've lost a bit of Euros fever, I'm not going to lie. I'm a bit flat after the defeat to Croatia. It killed me, that did. Anyway, moving on. Here is our friend Ted. Alright, Ted? Send them homewards to think again. Ted, why are you singing Flower of Scotland? I'm getting into this Euros now, really. Love the Scotland boys. Who we got in the next round? Ted. We went out, mate. We lost to Croatia in the last game. We had to win, and we lost to Croatia. The competition's done and dusted for us. Why you now switch to the French national anthem? I was always France. None of them other losers. We are world champions. Don't you know it, monsieur? Ted, literally 2 seconds ago, you were singing Flower of Scotland, and now it's the Marseillaise or whatever it's called. Non, really. L'Écosse est merde. Christ, now he is talking French. Ted, okay, let's have your nominations in French then, because that is clearly the way forward. No, Inglesi now. And there are no nominations, just an outright easy winner. Okay, so who scooped the award then, Ted? Well, if he had scooped the ball over the bar, he wouldn't be winning the award. Is it Martin Dubravka, Ted? Oh yes, the one and only, or Patacake as we should now call him. Yes, so Martin Dubravka against Spain for Slovakia. The score's tied at 0-0 and he decides to pat the ball into his own net. What was he? I don't even know what he was trying to do. I don't understand. So, rightly so, Martin Dubravka, you are Ted's Euros Little Knob of the Week. Congratulations, my friend. I'm not going to pass it to you though because I fear you may slap it into your own goal net. Reedy? Yes, Ted. I'm upset. Why, Ted? I'm the only person that Tottenham have not offered their job to. I want to turn it down. Yeah, Tottenham, the big six, remember? Scrambling around still, trying to find a new manager. Oh well. Right, we'll see you later for How Old the Real then, Ted. Au revoir. Got it this week. Brilliant. French Ted. Don't know what's worse. So this week on Zooming In, I was joined by a member of the band Senses. You may recall we have had Senses on before when we were joined by Cav. Think Michael Doyle in his five-a-side team. That might recall some. That might bring it back. Anyway, this week it was Milan resident and Italian football specialist Ronan who joined us ahead of their new single being released, which is absolutely amazing. We'll talk about it in the show. There is a clip of the boys coming up afterwards. It's not the new single. That's not released till the 2nd of July, but it's one of their previous singles. So we talked about his music. We talked about football. Is football coming to Rome? See what I did there? Coming home, coming to Rome. And he lives in Milan. It doesn't really work. So anyway, here is Ronan from Senses on Zooming In.
So, welcome to another Zooming In, and we are joined by old friends. We are joined by one of the lads from Senses, but this time in the shape of Ronan. Ronan, how are we?
Thanks, Reedy, for having us on. Yeah, really good. Thanks, mate.
Good to hear. Now, last time you were on, it was all about the single Drop Your Arms, which was absolutely brilliant. Now, you've given me a sneak preview of the new one, which there's a big buzz about on social media coming up for the 2nd of July called Let Me In. Tell us all about it. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
You know, this was one of the first songs that we actually recorded with Gavin Monaghan. And for us, it's a really special song because Brian Callan, the singer, he writes all the lyrics, and he arrived with, you know, the melody, the outline of the song, and he played it to us in rehearsals, and we just started playing along. You know, I started playing bass, Cav started playing guitar, but he started using the EBow. You know, it's something that REM made famous, the sound that they used. And, you know, he just started playing that straight away, and then, you know, Finney on the drums. And it's one of those songs, it kind of wrote itself. After about 20 minutes, we were kind of like, you know, we've got the idea here. Yeah. And when we went into the studio, we added in, you know, synths, played around with playing the synth through, you know, a swirling AC30 sound. And we always had this idea of having strings on the track. So we spoke to Gavin Monaghan, and he said, "Oh, I've got these amazing string players. You know, they've done stuff for the twang. I think they might have done stuff for editors as well. Like they're his go-to string players for anyone he records with." And he said, "Like, I'll speak to them. We'll book them up." And then he said to us, "Oh, you'll have to have some sheet music written out for them to play along to." And you know, we've kind of said before, the reason we became a band was because we got put into detention in school.
Yeah.
So it was raining one day. We had no football. We were meant to go outside to carry on playing, but there's no football. So, you know, we hid in the music room.
Yeah.
The new music teacher caught us, put us into detention, and yeah, the rest is history. He made us empty a van of musical gear, and we're like, wow, this is amazing. You know, up until that point, all we had to play on was Casio keyboards. Yeah. We were unloading these basses, guitars, drums. And he was like, "Listen, if you're into it, just come back next week." I don't think he expected us to turn up after having a detention thing. And yeah, so that's how the band started. But, you know, none of us can read music or anything. So the day before going in to record Let Me In, we're getting in touch with one of our mates, Rig, who played in a couple of really good bands around the Coventry, Warwickshire area. One of his bands, Shock Parade, played at Glastonbury. And we're like, you know, he plays keyboards. We think he can read music. So we went round to his house and we're there like pressing each button on the keyboard. So that's the sort of note, that's the note. And he writes it all out for us on this computer program. We turn up the next day and give this music to these two like viola and violin players. And they're like, oh no, don't worry about that. We'll just sort of like, we'll play along. You tell us how you want it. And yeah, so we got this like big sort of staccato sound on the strings. We're like, play it a bit more like, like, you know, trying to describe it any way we could. We got there in the end though. Yeah.
It's rare, I have to say, it's rare for me to listen to a song once and love it straight away. Music tends to be a real grower on me. Even with my favourite artists, I tend to need to give it 3 or 4. That one, you sent me that this afternoon. I listened to it as you sent it to me, as I was like, the football was, and I muted the football instantly because I was just wrapped up in it. It's got a real, and I messaged you and said, it's got a real touch of Elbow about it. I think if people like Elbow, they're going to absolutely love this track.
Oh, mate, I'm made up to hear that. You know, Elbow are sort of a big influence on us around that sort of time. That sort of big, grandiose statement. I think, you know, we've got something contrasting with that as well. You know, this sense of vulnerability. You know, it's not just about that sort of big sound. So hopefully, you know, that's something that people tap into. And, you know, the lyrics really are about being there for someone and sort of offering your unconditional support and backing to them. And, you know, this is kind of a perfect time for that track. And, you know, we're hoping that it's part of the zeitgeist, you know, it's this sort of spirit. A lot of artists, a lot of people are feeling sort of hard done by, and rightly so, by the government. And, you know, hopefully this is kind of a glimmer of hope to that. Yeah. And, you know, we're so lucky as a band, you know, we're 4 best mates who've got to make music together. And, you know, we've had brilliant support from our families, from our friends. You know, we haven't really wanted for anything in terms of being able to make music. You know, we've struggled and saved money to buy things as we were younger. And even to go in and record, you know, when we were first starting out, Gordon, I don't think I've said this to anyone else, Gordon Raphael from The Strokes, he had just recorded The Strokes' first album and he heard our demo on Steve Lamac's Unsigned show on Radio 1. And he got in touch and he sent this email over saying, oh, I love your sound, I love what you're doing. It was very jangly in that first ever demo. It was literally our first ever song we recorded. Yeah. And I replied because I was the first one that got to the email. I was like, wicked, yeah, like, thanks. And he was like, I'd like to bring you down to my studio to record. And we're like, yeah, we're up for that. And then he was like, so tell your label. And we're like, we haven't got a label. Tell your label my rate is £1,200 a day. And we're like, what? You know, we're lucky to be in the position we were in to go and record with Gavin Monaghan. And, you know, we wanted to give something back. And for us, you know, music's not about fame or fortune. Yeah. Certainly with Spotify streaming, it's not about fortune.
Certainly not going to be about fortune, is it? Definitely not.
Unless you're Drake, Ed Sheeran, or Justin Bieber. So, you know, what we wanted to do was all of the profits from Let Me In, which is, like you said, out on the 2nd of July, and then the follow-up single, which is going to be the last single before the album, We're Not Wanted. There's kind of a recurring theme there, isn't there, about sort of being marginalised and isolated. Yeah. You know, the profits from those 2 singles are going to go towards charities. You know, we're still waiting to firm up the charities. One of them is definitely going to be Crisis, which is a charity that helps people who are homeless and, suffering from various problems, that luckily we've never faced. And then all the proceeds from album sales, be it sort of digital, vinyl. So we've got two limited edition vinyls actually coming out in sort of August, at the end of August. So hopefully, we're going to try and give something back through the sales of this.
Oh, that's brilliant. And to be fair, I mean, that's great that you're doing it. The boys from Dictator did something similar with their last single as well. It's so nice to see guys like you, who, like you said, you're just about making the music and people enjoying your music. And actually, the profits, like, while it's nice, that's, you're not going to get, unless you get an incredibly lucky break, you're not going to get mega rich from your music. So to give something back, I think, kudos to you. And I hope it really, really works for it. And I'm sure it will. I'll say it let me into absolute banger of a song. It's so good. I can't honestly. I know I say this a lot when people come on here, and I do big up the music, but I love that song so much, and I think people are just going to be all over it the minute that comes out. I genuinely do. I think it's going to be huge.
Thank you, mate.
No worries. And as a band, you are quite unique, because what people probably don't realise, other than those who are a bit cute on Twitter, 3 of you are based in the land of sunny Coventry, and you're sitting in your front room in Milan, Ronan. How does this work?
Well, actually, up until maybe about 2 or 3 years ago, 3 of them were in Coventry. One of them was in London now. Right. So thinking about, has any band scored a hat trick yet?
No, not yet. We've got 2. So, you're the second one on 2.
So we've got another one who's in Coventry. So Finney, I'll do him a disservice if I call him the drummer. He plays the drums, he plays piano, synths, does backing vocals. He sang lead vocals on that first ever demo that ended up in Lamax Lap. Finney's in Coventry still with Cavi, but then Callan is down in London now. So he's an Arsenal boy.
Yeah.
So, you could have him on.
So how does the mechanics of it work with you being in Milan? How do the mechanics of it work? Does it work well, or is it difficult?
Well, what kind of happened was, we hit a bit of a hiatus, maybe about 10 years ago, and without getting into it too much, personal family things were happening, and up until that point, the band had practiced, 5 nights a week. We'd practice for 2-3 hours on a farm in the middle of nowhere, and then we'd play gigs at the weekend, or be recording and stuff. And the only regret that I've got musically is we were scheduled to play. So some other demos found their way to Radio 2. We played a live session on Radio 2. And then Radcliffe and McConey offered us a session at Maida Vale. And we couldn't practice 5 nights a week. It was kind of like, we'll do a night here, a night there. And we just didn't, we cancelled the Maida Vale session. And, that's my biggest regret. Looking back on it, because things just fell into our lap so easy back then.
Yeah.
So we kind of hit a bit of a hiatus. We never split up or anything. We had a big following on MySpace. We didn't send out a MySpace message saying, that's it, the end of the road. Which kind of stopped gigging. But what we did do, we kept sending each other messages over sort of the internet, like email or whatever, now WhatsApp, ideas for songs and, writing things this way. So what happened was, I always knew that, we're all sort of second generation Irish.
Yeah.
And I love Coventry, it's salt of the earth people. Had a season ticket at Cov City, but just somehow it never felt like home. And for me, I wanted to sort of travel a bit and find where my home is. So, you know, when the band was on a bit of a hiatus, I had that opportunity. So I ended up moving to Milan, and, you know, I fell in love with it. It just opened my eyes to so many things. But then from Milan, I moved to Hamburg. You know, speaking of, you know, brilliant cities for music and football.
Yeah.
I lived 4 metro stops away from St. Pauli, which is probably, you know, the world's biggest cult football club. And right on the doorstep of the football stadium, we've got some amazing music venues. You know, it's a bit like Manchester or London, where you're sort of faced with which gig do I actually go to tonight, because there's 5 brilliant ones I want to see. And then from there, you know, I moved back to Milan. So, you know, it's still the same way. We're swapping ideas, we're communicating digitally. You know, even going back sort of 15 years, I remember the Kills. Don't know if you remember them. You know, one of them was in New York and one was in London, and they made their album just by sending emails to each other. So I thought, you know, if it's good enough for them, we can at least have a go.
So with you being in Milan, moving on to football, you are perfectly placed to talk to us about this Italy team, because bloody hell, they're quite good, aren't they?
I think that's the thing, you know. I think they're quite good. A lot of Italians think they're quite good, but it seems to be that they're flying under the radar, especially if you read Twitter. You know, I'm seeing people say, "Yeah, who've they played? Like they've only played Turkey, they've only played Switzerland." It's like, well, you know, what is it? I think it's 29 games unbeaten.
Yeah.
And even in that 29 games, they haven't conceded many goals.
No.
But, so in the Euros, they haven't conceded. They're going for, I think, you know, Mancini's going for the record. So if they beat Austria, they'll equal the all-time Italian record of games unbeaten, which is 30. And I think it goes back to like before the Second World War. So, you know, some going, considering, like you say, you know, Italy are doing well. I think when people say Italy haven't got a good team, I think what they mean is Italy haven't got any players that stand out and make you go, wow, like Del Piero or Baggio or Maldini. You know, what their strength isn't that. It's that they've got some great players who play well as a team. I think that's the big difference. And that's probably why they're still flying a little bit under the radar.
Yeah, I mean, I put that here. They are a proper team unit, and I think and without being disrespectful to anybody, I think if you ask a lot of people who Locatelli plays for, who Spinazzola plays for, they wouldn't know, and that's, you know, that's not being disrespectful. They just wouldn't know. Locatelli. I mean, gee, the other night he was incredible, absolutely incredible, and he plays for Sassuolo. I mean, the reality again, a lot of people won't even know they're in Serie A. That's just.
So, do you know what I think? Without looking at it, I think Sassuolo are probably one of the teams that have got the most players in, or they're up there. You know, Inter have got Bastoni, brilliant defender. You know, he's a young defender. You look at the team, you've got Chiellini and Bonucci. So you've got these two defenders who know each other so well.
Yeah.
And you've got Bastoni, who played pretty much the full season for Inter in the back, in a back three. You know, you can bring him off the bench to fill in for one of them.
Yeah.
Which is phenomenal. We've, like, just looking at Inter, you know, we've got Barella, Sensi had to pull out. But Sassuolo have probably got more players than Inter in the team, because their policy is, you know, bring through great young Italian players.
Yeah.
And, you know, speaking of Sensi, you know, Sensi, who we bought, was even from Sassuolo. And I think, you know, that's one of the strengths as well, that the team plays in a very similar way, I think, to teams like Sassuolo, to Lazio. So it's very easy for these players to slide into that system.
Yeah.
And it's about, you know, playing as a unit, and each person has a job to do. They know what their job is. But yeah, you're right. Locatelli was phenomenal the other night.
Yeah.
And I think Raspadori came on for another Sassuolo player. He came on for in the Wales match, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, if he gets a little bit more time under his belt during this tournament, he's going to be on the radar of some big teams. Just thinking about Sassuolo, you know, they got promoted a few years back. Di Zebri, their manager, you know, he's a brilliant manager. He's going to go somewhere big in the next season or two. And Sassuolo, like, the population is 40,000. So what's that? Like, where in the UK has got a population of 40,000?
I mean, that's a small town, isn't it? We're talking a small town.
Like, close to Coventry, I'm probably thinking, you know, Nuneaton.
Yeah.
But that's even bigger, you know.
Yeah.
They've got a construction company, multi-millionaire, maybe billionaire, that's backed them. And his philosophy was, you know, invest in young talent from Italy. Let's buy players who've got something to prove. They were the first stadium, like, you know, even before Juventus built their own stadium, they went and bought Reggio Emiliana's stadium at auction, because he realized, you know, if I want to turn a good revenue, I need to have my own stadium. So, you know, I love stories like that within Italian football, and they still happen. You know, there's lots of little things like that. Venezia getting promoted back into Serie A. So, you know, there's lots of these. But, you know, going back to the team, I think there's some great players, and people probably don't realise, you know, Donnarumma is he's probably 22. I think today he signed for PSG. But he's already got over 200 Serie A appearances, and he's 22.
Yeah.
He's got loads of Italy caps as well. In front of him, you know, you've got that sort of pairing of Bonucci and Chiellini, very solid at the back. You know, they haven't conceded a goal. And then you've got Barella from Inter, won most valuable midfielder in Serie A this year. And you could say, you know, he probably might not even start the next match, because the other players are playing so well.
They're my favourite team to watch so far, without a doubt. They've been brilliant to watch, absolutely brilliant. And as a small man, I love Insigne, because he is just absolutely. I could watch him all day long. He just gets up, he gets kicked, he gets up, he gets kicked, he gets up. He's just not bothered. He just keeps going and going and going. He's great. I love him.
You know, like, he's captain of Napoli, and he's just a little lion, isn't he? Yeah. And I think, you know, that's another strength of the Italian team. You know, you've got Insigne, who's a captain, Immobile, who's a captain, Chiellini was a captain, Bonucci, when he went to Milan for that one season, he was the captain. Now he's gone back to Juve. You know, they're talking about Barella being Inter captain. You know, they've got leaders all over the pitch. But we're not even speaking about Verratti, who is probably the best Italian player. You know, that's I think people have underestimated them. But, you know, the real test would be if they face, you know, Belgium or France. Let's see. Yeah,
let's see indeed. Now, this is the bit I've been looking forward to.
Let me just share this with you.
Look at that.
An original Italian 90. Theodora. Is that the most beautiful Italian kit ever, or what?
It's a great shirt. It's got to be said. Memories of Schilacci. So this is the bit I've been looking forward to. I know you have. I know that because we had a chat beforehand. You want to make your team better than Cavs. Now, we had a discussion about Michael Doyle. So, you know, he's got Michael Doyle in there. And as a Leeds fan, I'm quite happy he had Michael Doyle in there, because he had a couple of good seasons with us as well. So you are a season ticket holder into Milan. So I do think you have a little bit of an advantage over Cav, but you've still got to get a side together that can turn his over. So let's begin. Who have we got as your goalkeeper?
Well, I'm seeing now, I'm a bit angry that Cavi got in here first and took Schmeichel, you know. Schmeichel was just the best shot stopper. But I'm going to have to go for Julio Cesar for Inter. You know, he won the triple. It was the first year that I moved to Italy and I got to see him play. You know, talk about leaders as well, you know, what a brilliant leader. So I'm going to stick Julio Cesar in sticks.
And famously, had a couple of seasons at QPR, rather bizarrely.
QPR legend, yeah. So after racking up 200 odd appearances, I think he's in the Inter Hall of Fame as well. You know, he just went and plied his trade for QPR.
QPR, bizarre.
I think they had a new owner around that time, so
yeah,
probably did well out of it.
So who is your defender protecting Julio?
You're going to have to help me make the decision on this one because, you know, do I just go all out Inter? And I used to be able to get corporate tickets for Milan, so you know. Cav put Maldini in because he saw Maldini when we went to the derby together.
Yeah.
And, you know, Maldini is a great choice. And, you know, they even reckon that his son that's coming through into the team now in Milan, like they're going to try and give him next season to prove himself. Thinking about Inter, you know, captain fantastic, probably one of the highest appearances in Serie A from a foreigner. Thinking of Javier Zanetti, you know, 600 odd appearances, and you know, diminutive in stature, but you know, a giant for the team. Thinking he could do it all. He was used to playing wing back as well, you know, so he could get forward in that five-a-side pitch.
Yeah,
but you know, being an Ireland fan. How can I not put Paul McGrath in?
I mean, Paul McGrath was just, I mean, he's an absolutely, and I want to say he's an underrated player, but he wasn't underrated. Everyone rated him very highly, but actually he was a lot better than people rated him. If he had steered clear of injuries, he would have been one of the greatest ever. Without a shadow of a doubt.
The fact that he didn't like train and stuff, and just play those matches. It's just insane, isn't it?
Yeah. His autobiography is brilliant. His autobiography is a fantastic read. It really is. And I, as a Leeds fan who can't stand Man United and everything they stand for, I loved his autobiography and I liked him as a player. He's just, you know, he was a class act. And that's a tough call. I'm going to have to leave it with you.
Right.
I think you've got to go McGrath.
I'll tell you what, let me think about it for a minute. So while I'm thinking about it, Ronaldo didn't want Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Romelu Lukaku wants Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Ronan would be happy with Birra Moretti. So, you know, if they want to sponsor me and Senses, I'm all down for that.
And if they want to sponsor the podcast, bring it on. I'm more than happy.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Right, I'm putting McGrath in there.
You're going Paul McGrath, right?
Going McGrath.
He's in. He's down on the list. So, two midfielders. So, who's the first of your midfielders?
Right. First one. Right. So the first position, I wanted someone who could ping a really good ball anywhere, you know, pick a pass out. So, you know, I'm reverting back to that sort of Inter team, like Wesley Sneijder, what a playmaker. He's there, but, you know, Cov season ticket. One of the players that we bought that I was so surprised by, and, you know, I learned to love him because, yeah, he was one of those players that you hated when he played against you, but when he plays for you, you're just like, oh, what a legend. You think who I'm talking about?
See, I want to say Speedy, but are you going to put him in this?
I think Cav had him, so I can't.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
There's a Leeds connection, so.
Oh, Gary Mack.
No, I think he wanted him as well. So I'm putting Gordon Strachan in there.
Oh, the ultimate.
Yeah.
I forgot about him. The Coventry.
How can you forget about him? I think, you know, his management kind of took away people remember his management as opposed to what an amazing player he was.
Yeah.
You know, what a record he has as a player. He's gonna keep that midfield on the five-side pitch working. He's gonna make people fire up, isn't he? Even if Even if Julio Cesar doesn't understand him, he'll make himself understand.
And and famously, obviously being the height he is, he'd be perfect in five-a-side. Ball below head high, he'll be absolute genius. So who have you got alongside the wee man?
Right. So I was thinking, let's put Roy Keane in there, but I think him and Strachan would just go toe to toe. I think we might end up having matches abandoned. See, now the other one is because it's players that I've seen play.
Yeah.
Now I can't even remember if I've seen this player play on a football pitch. I've seen him play in a playground. So, and I want to put him in here just because there's a great story about him. So, when I was in Germany, I used to teach in a school, and Rafael van der Vaart's boy was in the school. And that season, Van der Vaart had moved to Real Betis. So he's famously got Spanish gypsy from sort of the Sevilla region, Andalusia region. He's got family that are from there. And he said he always wanted to go and play for Betis because they were like one of his family's clubs.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is legend or not, but it's brilliant. He used to have a boot deal with Adidas. And I think, when he was at Real Madrid and Spurs, he used to wear these Adidas boots. And sometimes he'd wear ones that were with white and red on. And Betis said to him, if you don't wear boots with red and white, the colours of Sevilla, for the whole season, there's €1 million bonus. I think he only played about 40 minutes for Betis because he was injured. He actually played more on the playground at school. And he'd be there nearly every day before the school bell rang, out on the playground with the ball, waiting for kids to come out. And, they'd go over to him and they'd get shirts signed. They'd get their school shirt signed and then have to try to wear it the next day. But, he made so much time for the kids and just playing with them for like an hour every day. I was like, how come you're not playing for Betis? You look fit enough out here. But, I'm going to stick him in just for the crack, alongside Gordon.
And the thing is, things like that, it's things like that. And, footballers get a bad rep from time to time for a lot of things they do on the field, off the field, salaries, blah, blah, blah. And some of it is deserved at times. I'm not going to defend them for everything they do, but there's a lot of stuff they do exactly like you've just described, which never gets noticed. Those kids, memories for a lifetime. You say they played with, Rafa van der Vaart in the playground. And yeah, it's just, that's the sort of thing that footballers, they don't get enough credit for. And, and that's where I get really pissy when people slag footballers off for all sorts of stuff, because there's so much they do in the background that they don't get credit for.
Absolutely, yeah. So we used to go to school with, do you remember from Dexy's Midnight Runners? Is it Kevin Rowland?
Yeah, Kevin Rowland, yeah. I'm old enough to remember him.
So we used to go to school with, I think it was his nephew, and a couple of times he turned up to pick him up and stuff. So people were buying like Dexy's Midnight Runners t-shirts to try and get them signed, but they've probably never heard them at that point.
Yeah.
People still remember it. It's that sort of, like you say, taking the time for people and remembering your roots and where you're from.
Definitely.
So I think Van der Vaart deserves a place. Plus, Callan's an Arsenal fan, so I've got to put a Spurs player in.
Just to wind him up. Right, so Cesar, McGrath, Strachan, Van der Vaart, who is the one stealing all the... Have you put yourself in up front?
Yeah, listen, I played rugby and I even tried to do a drop kick once, and the manager said to me, don't ever do that again, just run at them. They pick sort of rugby players as bass players, I think, because we've got the heaviest amps to carry. So that's why, by default, I think I turned out as the bass player.
Brilliant.
Right, so carrying on, just to wind up Callan, I could put Robbie Keane in there. seeing him play for Coventry when we signed him from Wolves for like 5 million.
Yeah.
And then, funnily enough, sold him to Inter for 11.
Yeah.
We'd been relegated, so he was like a bit of positivity for our exile, you know. He was pretty good. Another one was like, saw Batistuta play.
Oh.
Can you remember when Arsenal used to play at Wembley?
Yeah.
For their European games? And Batistuta, he took it down the wing one time and just lashed it in from like 40 yards out. Yeah, but you know, I'm going to have to go for a current Inter player. And Man United fans, you know, look away, but I can't put anyone else in but Lukaku.
Yeah.
You know,
they've got to be fuming, Man United. They had one of the most talented centre forwards in Europe in their lap, and they just didn't use him to his skills or his benefits or anything at all. I don't know, what a waste. What an utter waste.
you saw his promise, like even at Everton, didn't you? Like you saw that. But when he arrived in Italy, you know, a few of my mates who have got a season ticket with were like, "What?" It was like 90 million euros or something. They're like, "What? That's crazy! Like he can't play for Man United. We're paying 90 million." I was like, "No, seriously. In Serie A, he'll destroy people just with his pace alone, you know, and his physicality. You know, he's going to boss it." And really, like, you know, he didn't really get off to a great start because Conte put him on this diet, and I think all he could eat was salad, fish, and vegetables. And he had him on this diet, and it worked wonders because, you know, people from the UK were like, you know, he's overweight and everything. And then all of a sudden he posted this picture on Instagram and you're like, okay, he's not overweight. If that's overweight, I want to be like that.
Yeah, me too.
But, you know, his brother was playing for Lazio, so he already had a little bit of Italian from, you know, coming over and seeing his brother and stuff. And I might be wrong, but I think he speaks about 5 languages.
Right.
And he made a big point of learning Italian really, really quickly. And even after a couple of, straight away, he was trying to give interviews in Italian. But after a couple of weeks, you know, his Italian was brilliant, and he was like giving interviews on telly and stuff. And he even said to Ericsson, you know, when Ericsson wasn't getting, you know, what happened to him was such a shame.
Yeah.
Speaking about, you know, the Euros and football, and, you know, that kind of puts everything into perspective a little bit.
Without a doubt.
But one of the things that Lukaku said to Ericsson, he was like, you know, and he even came public and said this. He said, "I've told Christian that I really like him as a person, I respect him as a player, but he needs to start learning more Italian and he'll fit in." And you know what? You know, second half of the season, he really kicked on for Inter, and, you know, he was a great sort of option for us to have because he was making much more of an effort with it. And he even said the same to, like, you know, Young when he came over. So, you know, I get the sense that he's a really sort of humble person. And, you know, you've probably read part of his story and the promise that he made to his grandparents of, you know, he promised his granddad that he was going to win a trophy. He promised his mum when, you know, that story about not having enough milk and bread, and she diluted the milk.
Yeah.
And Lukaku was like, what's wrong with this? And he said, you know, that was the first time that I realized that we were really poor, because my mum was having to, like, get the bread and then pay for it at the end of the week. And he said to her, like, you know, I'm not going to let you be poor anymore. I'm going to become a professional. You know, that kind of, you don't get that as much anymore, you know, that sort of drive.
No, he comes across as very, very down to earth, and you can't help but like him. I think it's, you know, you've got to have a heart of stone not to like him. You really have. I think, you know, and for Belgium, I'm glad he's having a good tournament. I hope he goes on and tears up the tournament, to be honest, because I think he deserves it. I think he's You know, and I think if he does have a good tournament, they're going to take some stopping. To be fair, him and De Bruyne together are going to take some serious stopping.
And even like, you know, you got Hazard.
I know.
Yeah.
You're not even mentioned him.
Yeah, that's the scary thing.
But mate, I've absolutely loved that. It's been brilliant. Yours and Cav's team. I'm going to have to come up with a way that we can put the two together. And maybe I'm going to get a jury in. I'm going to get 3 or 4 people as random guests to come on with a pair of you, and we'll put the two teams against each other. And we'll have little votes and see who comes out on top, and have a bit of fun with it. And I'm even thinking, because I've got a bit of a thing with the boys from Dictator. They've been on a couple of times now. You guys have been on a couple of times. I think what we're going to do, I'm going to put it out to you both on Twitter, so I'll give you the heads up. I think what we're going to do is we're going to have a census 5-a-side team against a Dictator 5-a-side team, and the pair of you can come up with something between you. I think we'll have a bit. We can have a bit of fun with that.
Listen, we love the Dictator boys, but when it comes to the football pitch, yeah, we want to beat them.
So, for those of you who didn't listen at the start, the new single is out on the 2nd of July. Honestly, guys, listen to it once, because you'll only have to listen to it once, and then you won't need me to ask you to listen to it again, because you just will. It's that good, trust me. Hopefully, all being well, we'll have a little video clip of it after this interview, if all goes well on the email. And if not, we'll have a video clip of something else of Senses, but I'm sure we'll have something to put on at the end. Ronan, thank you so much, mate, for giving up your time. I'll let you get off and watch the France-Portugal game.
Thank you, Reedy. Forza Reedy.
Grazie.
Yeah,
look at that. That's the only word I've got. I've got nothing else. So for now, it's back to the show, and here are the boys from Senses.
There we go then. Absolutely brilliant, lads, the boys from Senses. I kid you not. Make a note for the 2nd of July. Download their new song. It's called Let Me In. It is absolutely bloody brilliant. And as you heard, it's all going for a good cause. Well, any profits are going to a good cause. So please, please, please back that song. It's so, so good. I will retweet it on my Twitter timeline. Genuinely, you will love it. I've had one listen and absolutely love the song. So get behind them. And it weren't a bad 5-a-side team either, was it, to be fair? Jesus. Anyway, time for this.
The name game.
Yep, still the only part of the show that gets its own jingle, where we hunt down brilliantly named footballers. And this week we head to South America and Argentina, and a goalkeeper who started his career with the famous club of Independiente. He also had some spells at a few other football clubs. But maybe, just maybe, the weight of his brilliant name weighed too heavy on his shoulders. I think maybe, held back his career a little bit. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you this week's winner of the name game, Fabian Arsman. For fuck's sake, that is clearly a man's arse. Who is putting these photos up? For God's sake, not being funny. I do not want to see a man's arse on a football show. Jesus Christ. Please, can we have Fabian Arsman? That's better. There we go. There's Fabian Arsman. Not a man's arse. So we're back next week with another great name for you to look forward to. Admit it. It's good, isn't it? Honestly, there's loads of them. I've got so many of them. We'll be doing this right through to the new season, trust me. So Ted is back. Who knows what language he'll be speaking in this time, but it can only mean it's how old the reveal. So earlier on the show, you saw the picture of Jimmy Graham. So Ted, you were very confident this week. Yeah, I've got it easy this week. Easiest one so far. Where's the French speaking gone? What French? You were literally talking French earlier on in the show and singing the French national anthem. Don't be so bloody stupid. Get on with the guesses. Is it just me? You all heard it, yeah? Really, they didn't hear it? None of them are talking back to you? Get on with the guesses. Okay. Harry from Paris. For fuck's sake, really, come on, dude, stop with the whole French thing. It was Harry from Paris. Okay, what's Harry from Paris' guess? Well, he guessed 29, but he's not 29. Boys clearly had too much vino and stinky cheese. Bit stereotypical, Ted, not gonna lie. Sienna from Vienna. Oh, Vienna. Doom, doom, doom. Doom, 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 doom. That was good, Ted, wasn't it? Brilliant. Can we do If I Was? If I was a betting man. No, we can't. So Sienna from Vienna, I'm afraid he was not 22. So Ted, how old do you think he was? 27. Show me the prize. Well, let's see. So when this photo of Jimmy Graham was taken, he was 25 years old. And an interesting side note, he was the brother of former Leeds and Manchester United and Scotland winger Arthur Graham. Who has the other half? What do you mean, Ted? You said he was the brother of half of Graham. Who has the other half? Ted, please, go and have a lie down, mate. I'll see you next week. Any humans want to come and be my sidekick on this show? The bear is gone too far. Anyway, guys and girls, that is it. Another episode done and dusted. 45 of them done. How many more have we got to go? Well, guess that's down to you guys really. Keep watching, I'll keep producing and keep presenting. Don't forget, if you did enjoy, please click subscribe down below if you're not already subscribed. Please give us a like. We love the likes. They mean so much. Generally, every single one is gratefully appreciated. And don't forget to click that little bell so that you never ever miss another episode. But for now, ding ding, next stop, Saturday the 3rd of July for what will be episode 46. So have a good week, everybody. And as always, stay safe.